Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving into a pretty mind-bending idea today. What if our consciousness, how we observe things, isn't just passive? What if it actually influences reality? We're exploring a philosophical piece called Thank God I'm an Atheist. Quite a title, right? It takes us through modern physics, connects to some deep philosophical questions. Our mission really is to see how science might be blurring those old lines between the observer and the observed, and what that means for consistency in thinking, even if you stick strictly to rationality. Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. The source material brings up modern physics experiments, like the famous double slit experiment. Where just looking at particles seems to change how they behave. The piece suggests this hints that consciousness itself, our awareness, could directly affect physical outcomes. It's not just a weird side effect. It implies the observer is actually, participating in how reality takes shape.
Exactly. And that's a huge shift from, the classical view. For centuries, science pretty much assumed reality is just out there, totally separate from us watching it. But these quantum findings, they force us to seriously reconsider. Consciousness might not just be a product of the physical world, it might be an active player in it. And, that naturally opens the door to bigger questions, philosophical ones, maybe even theological ones, depending on how you frame it. It's a fundamental challenge.
Right, a huge conceptual leap. But going from quantum effects to, say, a divine consciousness, that might feel like a big jump for some listeners. Mm-hmm. How does the source connect those dots? If our consciousness, which feels pretty limited, right, subjective, if that can influence physical stuff, what does that suggest about the possibility?
Just the possibility of a higher consciousness.
Maybe operating similarly.
Well, connecting it to the bigger picture, the key point isn't about proving God exists through physics. Let's be clear on that. It's more about laying down a ground for discussion that's intellectually coherent. It boils down to philosophical consistency. If you accept, based on the physics, that your consciousness can interact with reality, then dismissing the possibility of a greater consciousness doing the same, sort of out of hand, that creates an inconsistency in your thinking, doesn't it?
I see. It's about the logic. But I can imagine some pushback. People might say, look, these are still physical effects, measurable things, not spiritual. Mm-hmm. And, for many atheists, the whole point is sticking to scientific rationality, to strict empiricism, only believe what you can measure. But here's the paradox the source highlights. That very commitment to the evidence might now force us to accept consciousness playing this active role. Quite the twist.
Precisely. That's the core of the argument presented. If empirical evidence points to consciousness affecting reality at this basic level, then for someone committed to empiricism, just flat out rejecting the possibility of a divine consciousness becomes, philosophically tricky. It suggests that maybe strict empiricism doesn't automatically rule out such ideas anymore. You might need a more nuanced view of what reality even entails based on what science itself is showing us, even for the most rational viewpoint.
Which brings us back to that provocative title, Thank God I Am an Atheist. It really captures that tension, doesn't it? It suggests that even someone guided purely by logic and evidence, an atheist, might need to stay open to extraordinary possibilities, partly because our own minds show such potential.
Yeah, exactly. And the ultimate aim here, according to the piece, isn't really about winning an argument or proving a point definitively. It's framed more as a call to dialogue, an invitation, really, for everyone, atheists, theists, agnostics, philosophers, to step back and reconsider these boundaries, the lines between mind, reality, maybe even the divine. It's about pushing the conversation forward, getting past old roadblocks and exploring what these findings might truly imply.
So after all that, what does this mean for you listening right now?
Well, maybe the final thought to mull over is this. If our own consciousness, seemingly small and finite, if it has this kind of surprising power to interact with the fabric of reality, what does that truly suggest about our place in the cosmos, about the ultimate nature of existence itself? It's quite something to ponder.